Hello everyone, my name is Dee and welcome to Books and Quirks. Today is Friday, so it's time for another Friday Reads. I hope wherever you are, if you're in the US, you have some good 4th of July plans. And yeah, it should be a good, fun week, although we are having a bit of a heat wave, so that's a bummer. But otherwise, it should be good. And yeah, so let me get right into it. So the first two books that I finished this past week was Somewhere in Time by Richard Matheson and Now That You Mention It by Krista Higgins. So Somewhere in Time is about a man who finds a way to go back in time and he falls in love. This was a reread. I read it in high school and I really loved the second time around reading it as an adult. I think it was just fun. It's very short. It's barely over 300 pages and it's just a fun read, and it's a little bit of fantasy because it does have time travel in it, and a little bit of historical fiction. A lot of the book takes place in 1897, I believe it is. So it was a good read, and I'm really happy. And this satisfies the category, one of the categories for summer romance book bingo, and that is a standalone novel. So yeah, I'm really glad I read this, and I really enjoyed it. The next book that I finished also for Summer Romance Book Bingo was Now That You Mention It by Krista Higgins, and this book was absolutely wonderful as well. This satisfies the category of a Rita finalist. Rita are the big romance awards, and this was the category a finalist for a general fiction with a central romance, I think it was. And the romance was very cute, but the romance really doesn't come into play in this book until halfway through. Um, this is about a woman who seemingly is very happy in her life, has everything, and then it all implodes on her the night that she's in a bad accident. And, at the same time, her boyfriend breaks up with her. It's just, her life seems to be imploding. And she goes back home for the first time since she left for college. She's now in her late 20s, I believe. And it's much a story about healing relationships, coming to terms with the past, and of course the romance in this is very sweet as well. Really enjoyed this. So happy I picked this book for that category, and yeah, really loved this book. So right now I'm in the middle of two books. The first book is The Phantom Tree. This is a NetGalley book and I can't really talk much about it because I'm only about 20% in. But it takes place both in the present time as well as during Elizabethan times. And it is about a woman. Um, well, it starts off the book when she's a young girl, um, growing up in Elizabethan times. Um, and somehow she winds up in the present time and is trapped there. So she has been living in the present for quite some time. She's now well into her adult life, and she has been trying for years to find a way to get back to the past, to get back to her own time, because she left behind a son that she had out of wedlock. The son was taken from her, and she wants nothing more than to get back to her son. And she won't be able to do that until she gets back into the past. So there's a lot of questions I have about this book that I need answers to, and that's because I'm not that far into it yet. So I'll know a lot more once I get further in, but I can say that I'm really enjoying it. It's really intriguing and I want answers to those questions. The next book that I'll be continuing on this week is actually a buddy read. I'm reading with Cheryl, a CR Flames fan, and that is The Heresy by S.J.Parris. This is an Elizabethan thriller, as it says on the cover. It is very interesting. So we're only about a third of the way through the book, and it follows a man named Bruno. Um, Bruno was once a monk but left the monastery on accusations that he was a heretic because he was reading books during the Elizabethan times. They thought the earth was the center of the universe and the sun revolved around the earth. And it wasn't like an infinite, the earth was just the center of everything. And he was reading books and things that had to do with the opposite, um, that perhaps the earth was not the center of the universe and the earth was just, a blip in the cosmos and it was part of a larger galaxy and it revolved around the sun. So it's very interesting. After leaving the monastery, because the Inquisition was after him, so he's also fleeing that, and he winds up in London during Elizabethan times as well, and he just is arguing this point that the earth is not the center and people are not really wanting to believe him. There's also a murder that's happened in Oxford where the debate was happening, where he was arguing his theory, and so there's that happening, and yeah, it's just a lot of things happening. This is a very enjoyable book. I have to say, it took me a little while to get into it. It took me about 50 pages to get into it. At first, I wasn't really sure what was happening. But then I'm really enjoying this now. I hope to get more answers as we get further into it. We'll be finishing it this week because it's not a very long book, and we only have a few more days of reading left. So, yes, I'll be continuing on with this week as well. And the last book that I'll be reading this weekend, I start on Sunday, and it is also a buddy read with all of the usual people, and I will link all of their channels below. You've heard me talk about them before. And that is, sorry, I had to look up the title. The title is The Dragonlords, Fool's Gold by John Hollins. It is the first book in a series, I think. And again, for this book, I really can't give you a synopsis. I can't remember the synopsis, but I can say that we've been meaning to read this book for quite some time. It's been on my shelf for quite some time, or rather, not on my shelf, but I have it as an ebook for quite some time. And yeah, I'm eager to get started with it because no matter what the book is about, I always have fun with these booktubers, buddy reading with them. So yeah, it should be fun. And I can't wait to get started with that and see what that one's all about. So I know that was, I spoke very quickly about those books, but I really enjoyed this past week's reading, and I hope to really enjoy this coming week's reading. I really feel like I'm on a roll, and I really am enjoying myself, and I'm looking forward to a nice weekend. And yeah, so if you're in Canada, happy Canada Day. I know that's coming up. If you're in the US, happy 4th of July. And yeah, happy reading, everyone. I will see you all very, very soon.